In this video, we're going to cover the customizable order listing. You can see generic information on the customizable listings on another video, as well as those that are specific to projects and quotes, invoices and payments. But we're going to go over specifically the orders one. To get to this report, you go into Orders, click on Reports, and click Customizable Order Listing. This will bring up a dialog that's very similar to the other types of customizable listings, where you have the 5 buttons. You can set any report title and save it to retrieve it later under the Reports section of Oasis. You can print it, and as most of our reports, you can print to various outputs. For a customizable order listing and all of them, these 5 buttons are the same. The first one, Selection, allows you to choose what type of orders are going to show up on the report. In essence, it's very similar to the Find field in Orders. It pulls up the same dialog, and it's the query that goes through and finds what orders you want on the report. Grouping allows you to set them together in groups. So, for example, you could group manufacturers together or all orders under a certain customer together. Sort is just that. You tell it what fields you want to sort on. Filter is if you want to take the values of the orders that you have in your search query here and filter them down based on a certain value. And then finally, Layout tells Oasis how you want to view the report. In Selection, again, it's just like the Find field in Orders. You have the Basic tab where you can enter information in a variety of fields. You can use wildcards. For example, any POs that start with a PO number of West could be done like that. Same with project. You could do any that start with the word school, if I knew how to spell school. ASO is specifically a field that's hidden in Oasis for most commission orders. You can find it in the order listing, but it is an internal generated order. However, on resale orders, it is a visible number, and you can search by that field. You got SO numbers, RMA numbers, the end user PO if you're using that field. You have a release status, which allows you to pull up all orders that, for example here, that are released only, that are hold only, orders that are hold or have partial releases on them, and then orders that are fully released or have partial releases on them. You can go by order status. Your agency may have different statuses here depending on how you've edited it. But if you have your orders in a variety of statuses, you can search for orders that are specific to a status, as well as select more than one by holding the Shift key and clicking a grouping. You can also hold the Control key to select specific ones. Freight type, again, this is user entered, so you may have a different listing here than what's shown in this video. You can choose to do just commissioned orders, just sell orders, just buy orders, or consolidated orders, or any combination thereof. Canceled and not canceled. RMA requested, if the manufacturer has responded to the request. If there's invoiceable values, in other words, dollars on the orders that have not been invoiced, or any orders that have been over invoiced. And finally, if the order has a PIC. Under the More tab, you have a variety of other fields and dates that you can choose. Check boxes for if the order is a problem order or if it's been resolved, transmitted or non-transmitted. If it is a spec registration order, and that is a selection on the General tab. If it's coming from a daily quote, a simple quote, or coming from a project. And if it's a backlog. What backlog does is any orders that are not fully paid. In other words, there's outstanding dollars on those orders that have not been paid yet. Money, you can enter a minimum and maximum for the 4 fields of sale, commission, overage, and profit. You can check to search for orders that have no commission, no overage, or no markup. And if there's invoices on the orders, whether it has an invoice, if there is no invoice, if there's disputes or resolved disputes. And the last one is active project billing, which these are sell orders, in other words, customer side orders that were converted from a project that is still open, that either have bill now checked on the general tab or vendor invoices in place. And that's a criteria you can use to capture orders that you need to kind of pay attention to right now. Internal shows all the criteria that you can search for orders that meet certain internal criteria, like your sales accounts, the CSR, or specific work groups. You can also search if the order is in a locked state. Parties are the external entities, so manufacturers, customers, specifiers, or you can also search by customers or specifiers assigned to a specific sales account. You can check if it has a specifier or if there's no specifier, and if there's spec splits. The shipping or general search fields that will look in the shipping lines for the values that you enter here and pull up the orders that match that. Same with notes. You can search for certain kinds of attachments by description, note, color, or category. And finally, you can use customer created search keys. If you've entered these into your database, you can search for orders by them. These are user entered, so your list here will be different than my list. Once you have your search criteria, which in this case it's got time frame of this year to this year that are commissioned and sell, it's telling you it found 10 orders that meet this criteria. This will give you an idea if your search query is too restrictive or not restrictive enough. Under grouping, you have a variety of fields that you can group by. And what you'll do is you'll just select the one that you want to group by, and you can drag it over, or you can select it and click Add. You can group by multiple levels, and the order that you group by will control how you're grouping. So in this case, it's going to, well, let me get you a more realistic example. We want to group by customer and then by manufacturer. So what's going to happen here is it's going to have customer A, and then underneath customer A, manufacturer A, B, C, and D, and then it'll go to customer B and show manufacturer A, B, C, and D, and so forth. Adjust values allows you to take the values that are on those orders and adjust them so that they are only showing the amount tied to this field you're grouping on. In this case, adjust values is saying that I only want to show the values for manufacturer A on manufacturer's A line and manufacturer B on the manufacturer B line. If I uncheck that, now it's going to show the total of the order under manufacturer A and then the total of the order again under manufacturer B. Most of the time you're going to want to adjust values. Some fields you can't adjust values, as you can see, because there is only one customer on the order, so there's nothing to adjust to. And finally, you can use page break to page break between any of the groupings. When you select OK, it'll list here what you are choosing to group by. Sorting, you do not need to add a sort if you've already got a field in group, because group will automatically sort those fields. But let's say inside of those you still wanted to sort by, let's say, entry date. You could put in entry date and then choose entry date ascending or descending, depending on what you need. And when you hit enter, or when you click OK, it'll show up there. Filter is a little unique in that you would think that you can filter based on selection, but let's say you have an order that has multiple manufacturers and you choose manufacturer A in your selection. Then all the orders that have manufacturer A will show up on the report. But since those orders have other manufacturers on them, you may not want to see those other manufacturers. So you'll want to filter it down again by a specific manufacturer, hypothetically. And what this does is now it'll find all orders with, in this example, Delta Lighting in them, and only show you Delta Lighting's values. And that's assuming I went in here and added Delta Lighting in there. So it's showing unknown because it couldn't find any, but let's assume that you have a lot of orders that you have Delta Lighting. Those orders can have other manufacturers, and if you only want to see Delta Lighting's numbers, you'll want to filter it here. Otherwise, without this filter, it will give you all the orders with Delta Lighting and show you the values of the other manufacturers on that order. So that's where filter comes into place. The last section is layout. And this is where you can choose whether you want portrait, landscape, or legal. And it lists the number of fields that are available, depending, and that changes based on what size or the portrait or landscape or legal setting that you choose. And any fields that you want to see on the report are on the right side, and you want to move them to the left side. If you want them in their own columns, like an Excel spreadsheet, where you have a table of customers all the way down in column 1 and PO numbers all the way down in column 2, that's what the column's for. If you want items displayed in their own row, meaning they'll take up as much of the line as they need and they're not restricted to columns, then you'll put them down here. Example for this might be a list of manufacturers or a list of the sales accounts. Or let's say, for example, you're going to do notes. Notes field might be an example where it's too much data is in here that will fit in a specific column. So this will allow it to fit as much as it needs to for this width that you have listed here. And you can insert row breaks, so that way if you want to control what row individual lines are on, so in this case PO notes will be on its own row, whereas Quoter, CSR will both be on the same row before it moves on to the next one. A lot of customers will just use the default settings in here, but keep in mind that you can remove any item that you don't want on the report and add any item that you do. The drag and drop method works as well. In this case, you'll see it's red to telling you that you've got too many fields that are listed in the portrait format. I'm over by 64 characters. So I could just go to landscape to adjust that. Of course, that might increase the number of pages. Or I can choose one of these fields that maybe I don't need, and I can remove it, and it will reduce the total down. And ultimately, I can change the amount in each of these fields to reduce the total. Once you click OK, it'll list what you have chosen here. The last setting is to show totals only, and that is if you do not want to see the individual orders. You just want to see the totals based on your grouping and the grand total on the report. Just to give you an idea of what it looks like, I need to remove this because my filter might get rid of all the criteria. And I'm going to use print preview. And now I have customer ABC, manufacturer 1, and I have the information listed there. And then ABC by a manufacturer that's not selected, information listed there. Go down here to Cabot Distributors by this manufacturer, and it lists it there. If I just choose Show Totals, I get rid of the lines in the report and just list the totals that you need. Again, this covered just the order section. There are other videos that cover the quotes, invoices, and payments, as well as one that covers the general settings for customizable listings.